plenty of money, but nothing I've ever seen before. You looked in our wallets? I had a suspicion. Hell, I'm not sure I believe it, but it adds up. What adds up? Oh, just stories. Old stories folks tell each other. Local legend around here, really. Take a look at this. She returned with a book and handed it to Earl. History of the British Colonies in North America. Turn to page 43. I'll be right back, she said as she walked out of the room. Earl turned to page 43 and read about what was called the oldest unsolved case in the colonies. The case of a baby that went missing in the summer of 1732. A slave named Nathaniel claimed that two men disappeared while holding the baby, but that account was dismissed out of hand. The baby was never found and was presumed dead. The family eventually put a headstone in the family cemetery. The story was a favorite among conspiracy theory nuts. Nathaniel never changed his story. He told everyone to his dying day about the 4 people who showed up that night, how they had tied up 2 of them only to see them vanish before their eyes, and how the other 2 had vanished a couple seconds later while holding the baby. This was all fresh in Earl's memory, since to him all of this happened about an hour ago. Earl handed the book to Clyde, who read the account and just sat there in silence. You know, Jenny said, I never bought into these stupid stories, but this is too uncanny. I saw you 2 walk from the field behind the shopping center, and there wasn't anyone in that field a minute earlier. That field is right where the plantation house used to be. The family cemetery is still intact. The baby's name on the headstone is George. You've been calling this little fellow George. He doesn't have proper baby clothes either. Just this towel he's wrapped in. Then there are 2 men you were trying to hide from. On top of that, what are these? She pointed at the 2 belts she had brought back from the bedroom. Well, Earl, reckon we ought to tell her? No point hiding it. Well, Jenny, you best sit down. Those are time travel belts, Earl said. They're what? They're time travel belts. You put them on and you can move to other times. We busted them when we got here and we need to fix them. But here's how they work. You turn it on with this little here switch and this display lights up. Then you choose a date and hit that red button. Takes a second and feels pretty weird. Then you show up in the time you selected. You and anything you're touching. This morning I would not have believed a word of that, but after what I saw, these were invented by a smart old dude, retired professor named Avi. Avi Zelinsky? Yeah, you know him? I watched the Science Channel. He was on there explaining how time travel could happen, but making a working device would be expensive. I looked him up online. Other scientists think he's crazy. We need to find him. He can probably fix these. He gave us these at his house. You were in Poland? No, in Indiana. But Dr. Zelinsky lives in Poland. He's never been here. Wait a minute. Okay, Jenny, I'll start from the beginning. It's a long story, so I'll try to make it short. He opened his wallet and pulled out the American currency. He showed her a $1 bill and said, "That's the baby you're holding." She looked at the portrait on the bill and read what was written on the bill, and the realization hit her. So, the revolution was successful. That's not what that book says. Earl thumbed through the book and found the chapter mentioning the failure of the revolution. Thomas Jefferson and John Hancock were arrested and hanged for treason, and the other instigators went into exile and died in other countries. Okay, here's what happened. George here grew up and became a great general in the revolution. Things weren't going so well, but he was determined and he held the army together. The French came to help out and the war was won. He became the first president of the new country. What happened? You guys went back with those belts and changed things? Yep. Those other two guys we saw back there, they have a lot of money. They gave Avi the money he needed and he built the belts. They stole two of them and planned to go back and kill George. They don't like the United States and they reckon killing him would make the revolution fail so the country would never exist. What did that country do that they wanted to do that? They said America was a racist country. The Indians got treated horrible and there was slavery. Like Britain has been any bloody better. We colonized the whole continent. Most of the Indians are still on reservations. And slavery didn't end that until 1870. Still got a lot of race problems here, a lot worse than back in England. So those guys wanted to create this world by killing George, and you went to try to stop them. So what happened? We got there before they did, and we were ready for them. That slave Nathaniel sneaked up on us. Thought we were going to do something bad. We told him what was going on. He didn't believe us, but his wife did. We were waiting on them when they showed up, had them surrounded by slaves. Then Mrs. Washington came out the house because George there was fussing all. She told Nathaniel to tie up the other guys, and I went to look at George. She handed him to me to hold. Well, the other dudes managed to hit their buttons and jump back here. That's how the belts work. You hit the button and you go back to the time you started from. So they up and disappear. One of the young slaves gets scared and jumps back, goes right into Clyde, knocks him down. Clyde falls into me. We both go down. I'm still holding George. I put my hand out, hit the button by mistake, and here we are. Nathaniel was right. I can't believe it. Now, you know what's weird? Clyde asked. The manager at that grocery. He was working at the park before we jumped back. The park? Yeah. This whole area became a national park because George was born here. So we bring George here, and he doesn't grow up when he was supposed to. So he never becomes a general, and the revolution is lost. We get here, and the people are the same. Only that this isn't the United States. If things didn't change, you're still living in England. And my brother's maybe still alive. Maybe. That country you said he was fighting in, I never heard of it. Kurdistan? Northern border of Iraq? Saddam invaded years ago. We've been there ever since. Yeah, I heard of the Kurds, but they don't have a separate country. It's all part of Iraq. Oh, and Saddam's dead. The United States overthrew him and he was hanged. What's your plan? You have a plan, don't you? Well, our belts are busted. We need to find Dr. Zelensky and get him to fix them. Then we need to go return George to his family so he can grow up and become who he's supposed to be. And we need to take care of the Powers brothers, said Earl. That only makes sense, said Jenny. If what you say is true, they'll just keep trying. We reckon if we've seen people who were here before, that we have a home here somewhere, probably where we lived before. Where was that? We lived in a small town called Harrison, Ohio. I've heard of Harrison. It's not far from Losantiville. Losantiville? Never heard of that. Surely you know about Losantiville. It's a city on the Ohio River, not far from your hometown. Seems a lot of things different here. This town here don't exist in my time either. Just a national park where the plantation was. Even has some reconstructed buildings that give folks an idea what it was like. Got some towns nearby though. So the first thing you want to do is find your home. Why not just find Dr. Zelensky? Well, we need money to get to Poland and identification. Only ID we got's the wrong ones for here. We find our homes, we find proper papers. Maybe some more money or a way to get more money. Why in your time did Zelensky live near you, and here he still lives in Poland? He came from Poland in 1970, when it was still part of the Soviet Union. Things weren't so good there. Everybody wanted out, but they didn't let too many people leave. He got to leave because he was a Jew. What's the Soviet Union? You know, Russians? When they had this big empire with all Eastern Europe, got busted up in the early 90s. That never happened here. Man, the prof told us what could happen if America didn't exist. How about World War I, World War II? There was the Great War, but it was over in a year. In our time, the Great War lasted 4 years. It was pretty bad. Then there was another one later. We call them World War I and World War II. My granddaddy fought in World War II. Russia was the first one, and it messed up their economy something awful. They had a rebellion and went communist. Overthrew what's the Russian leader called? The Tsar? They overthrew the Tsar? Yeah, 1917, near the end of the war. They built this big empire, took over a bunch of small countries in Europe, called it the Soviet Union. Then when America were the big powers for years, we called it the Cold War. Then they fell apart. It's just Russia now. Wow, all these differences because of this little baby? Well, that little baby is the father of a country. And his life is in our hands. Well, me and Clyde, you don't need to be getting involved. Oh, I'm involved, like it or not. I don't have a job anyway. Don't know if we need help. What do you know about this? What do you call it? Timeline? Ain't even been here a couple hours. Exactly. City names are different, road names are different. You probably don't even know which trains go where. Trains? Our time trains are for freight. We got interstates and airplanes. If this is the United States of America, what about Britain? Still a powerful country. Our biggest ally now. So let me get this straight. The revolution was successful, and over 200 years later, both countries are powerful allies? Exactly. We fought wars together and everything. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. It's not bad at all. Not now, it isn't. I always liked history class, so I remember a little. America done some bad stuff, but America's a lot better now. Had lots of problems years ago, but we got rid of slavery. Took a lot longer for black folk to get all their rights, and there's still problems, but things are better now. Still got a lot of room to get better, but we headed in the right direction. How did you get rid of slavery? Had a civil war. States in the South wanted to break away. President didn't want them to. Fought a war over it. Pretty nasty. States in the South had slaves and the North didn't. President Lincoln issued a statement. Freed the slaves if the war was won. North won the war. Country stayed together. Slaves were granted freedom, but things were still pretty bad for them for a while. Had a bunch of civil rights protests in the 60s. Passed more laws to make black folk equal. Law says they're equal now, but we still got a lot of problems. Still a lot of racist folk around. That's interesting. There was another rebellion here. It lasted 10 years, and it was still mostly the southern colonies that rebelled. The government side was losing so many men that they offered freedom to any slaves who fought for their side. A lot of blacks joined and the rebellion was put down, but it lasted 10 years. When it ended in 1870, slavery was abolished in the colonies for good. We passed civil rights laws in 1975. Same thing you described, though. They're equal, but we still deal with a lot of problems. Sounds like you know history well. My father was fanatical about it. So you think if you fix those belts and take little George back, your country will be back and there won't be any more colonies? Well, that's what we hope. Should work that way. Maybe that would bring William back? Don't know much about that. Maybe he don't get killed in Kurdistan, but who knows? Britain been fighting alongside of America in other places. He don't get killed, you'd have him back, but you'd never know he was gone. You won't even remember us. Jenny took one look at Earl. All cleaned up, he didn't look like a guy she would want to forget. So what's the first step? You need to get to Ohio, but we need to know where you live, right? Yeah, we probably got houses there. You mentioned that earlier. It makes sense. We can go to the library and use the computers. You can look yourself up and we can go from there. First, we need baby things for George. We can't just keep carrying him around. Hold him for a minute. I'll be right back. Jenny went down the hall and opened a closet, returning with an assortment of baby clothes, a stroller, a car seat, and a baby carrier. Let's see if any of these things fit him. Good thing I keep all this junk instead of throwing it away. While Jenny dressed George and changed his diaper, Earl and Clyde went back to the bedroom and put on their holster shirts with their pistols and extra mags before coming back. Are you taking those guns with you? Jenny asked. Yeah, gotta be prepared, Clyde said. You know they're illegal, don't you? But I got all the proper permit. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. Well, let's just hope we don't need to use them. That rules out taking trains or airplanes then. You'll never get past security. Well, don't that suck, said Earl. I hate to be unarmed if there's any trouble. The brothers have the same problem then, and they can't shoot straight anyway, Clyde said. We can leave them here then. You can get them before we jump back, whenever we get those belts fixed. I have a safe in the bedroom. You can leave them in there until you need them, Jenny said. Clyde and Earl removed the holster shirts from underneath their clothing and handed them and the guns to Jenny. When she returned from the bedroom, Earl was holding George and Clyde had the stroller and diaper bag. Well, my lady, if you're ready, let's go find out where we live. Well, I hope you enjoyed Chapter 8. If so, please like and subscribe. For information about my other work, you can check out the links in the description below. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.